Hello and welcome to Wargaming. I'm XVCJ. Just want to give a quick shout out to Gerard Murray, our fan from across the pond. Keep rolling strong. Today we're going to be going over the very new Salamanders Index in under 10 minutes. And I got this courtesy of Warp Rider Games. I mean, I had to pay for it. But they put it aside for me and that was nice. I got all the Sally things. I got the index. I got the data cards. I got Captain Agrax Earthshade, which that's all right. Sorry, Adrax Agaton. It's easy to make that mistake. Now, for those of you who have been following our channel's storied 3-week history, you know that I'm a full-fledged member of the greater good. Pretty much my entire time playing competitive Warhammer has been as a Tau player. But like most people who have been involved in 40k and have had a PC in the last 15 years, I got involved with 40k because of a game called Dawn of War. That was an RTS game that a lot of you have probably played at some point. And that was my first foray into what 40k even was. And when I was a teenager, I actually built a really shitty Space Wolf successor chapter army. It was like 500 points. And then in 7th edition, I did pretty much the exact same thing and it didn't get any better. But by the time 8th edition came out, I had a little bit of money in my pocket and I decided to delve full into the Xeno side of things and play Tau on the competitive side. But deep down, I always really wanted to build a bro marine army, and now it's pretty much the best time possible. So we'll start off with lore. I'm going to keep it pretty brief because most people at this point are pretty familiar with Space Marine lore in general and what the Salamanders are. But if nothing else, the index has pages and pages, and I'm not really going to go through it, but of great art and histories about the Salamanders, and that's really worth the purchase just on its own if you're really interested in the lore. The Salamanders originated as the Dragon Warriors, not to be confused with the Chaos Warband that really hates the Salamanders for some reason, but they originated during the Unification Wars on Terra. Upon their Primarch Vulcan's return to the fray and taking over the chapter, they changed their name to the Salamanders, which was named after a giant beast on his home planet, or adopted home planet, of Nocturne. Nocturne is a volcanic death world that produces very hardy citizens, which is perfect for recruitment. The chapter, however, keeps its fortress monastery on Nocturne's moon of Prometheus. Nocturne is a volcanic death world that produces very hardy citizens, which is perfect for recruitment. However, the chapter keeps its fortress monastery on the planet's moon of Prometheus. However, the chapter's first company is the only one that actually spends any significant time on Prometheus itself. The other 6 chapters, however, make their homes on Nocturne itself. Vulcan believed that the greatest responsibility of any Space Marine chapter is to protect Imperial citizens. So that is reflected in the fact that Salamanders ingrained themselves into nocturnal society. And they're viewed as elders by the population, and they're really deeply involved in the society and day-to-day lives of the Nocturnite people. So you might be wondering, 6 + 1, 7 companies, that doesn't make sense. Because technically the Salamanders aren't Codex compliant, paying homage to the 7 great houses that govern Nocturne prior to the arrival of the Primarch Vulcan. The Salamanders are broken up into 7 great houses, unlike the Papa Smurf's standard 10 companies. The captain of the first company has a secondary honor of actually being the chapter master, which is a very abnormal trait for a Space Marine chapter. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th companies are the battle companies of the chapter. The 5th and 6th are the reserve companies, while the 7th company is essentially the same as the 10th company in every other Space Marine chapter, being the Scout Company. Now on to characters gone through in the index. First off, Vulcan and Stan. Vulcan and Stan is the Forge Filer of the Salamanders chapter, and that is a specific honorific given to somebody that is unrelated to being a part of any other battle groups or companies within the chapter. His primary responsibility of the chapter is to seek out lost relics as well as his gene sire's lost legacy. Volcanistan is the former captain of the 4th Company, but as tradition dictates, he casts aside his first name to take the Vulcan name as an honorific. There are 9 primary relics that the Forge Father is scouring the galaxy for. Legend dictates that once all 9 relics are actually found, then that will mean that and the return of the Primarch. On the tabletop, he has a fairly standard company captain stat line. 2+ staves, ballistic skill and weapon skill of 2+, 4 attacks, 5 wounds. He carries a standard bolt pistol and grenades, as well as the Gauntlet of the Forge and the Spear of Vulcan. The Gauntlet is basically a flamer, auto-hitting D6, strength 5 shots. The Spear is a strength +2, so 6 essentially, AP -2 and D3 damage melee weapon. He has the Rights of Battle captain ability, allowing rerolls of 1 for units within 6 inches, and 3+ invuln because he has a fancy cape. He also has the Forge Father ability. It's a very Salamander-esque ability, allowing rerolls of hit and wound rolls with a flame and meltas for Sallies. Another character, and a new character for Sally fans, is Agarax Earthshade. Adrex Agatane is a new character for Space Marine fans, and he's really the least Bro Marine of the Bro Marines. He tends to go along with the standard Space Marine understanding of, rather than we're here to help all Imperial citizens, but we need to do what is best for the greater good of the Imperium rather than for the individual. On the tabletop, he has a near identical stat line, except for an additional wound because of Primaris. Yeah. He carries Dracus, his hand flamer, as well as Malleus Nocturne, which is his hammer. The thing is pretty beefy, with the strength being _2, so 8, and -3 AP with 4 straight damage. You do have to subtract 1 from your hit roll, so you're hitting on 3s. It's only fair, really. Oddly enough, he possesses the ability to add 1 to wound rolls to nearby units unto the Anvil ability. He also has a fancy cape that reduces damage against by 1 to a minimum of 1. Also, he has a 4-up invuln because of an Iron Halo. That's cool. I really like this character just because he's so anti what the Salamanders stand for, while still being pro-Salamanders and pro-Vulcan. I'm probably going to do an episode for a unit review for him just by himself, just because he is so interesting. For the remainder of this episode, we won't be going into every minute detail. Instead, we're going to be focusing primarily on things that we find interesting and things that we feel would be useful on the tabletop. So Salamanders and their successor chapters have access to the Promethean Cult, which basically adds 1 to all wound rolls for flamers and meltas. It's pretty cool. As far as warlord traits go, there are a couple cool ones. Anvil of Strength, for example, adds 2 to your strength characteristic. Patient and Determined allows you to auto-hit 1 hit or wound roll. That's probably what I lean more towards on the competitive side of things, because if you are playing competitive, you don't want to give your opponent Slay the Warlord, and you don't want to put your Warlord all the way up there, unless you're using your Warlord as a Smash Captain, but that really might be overkill overall. As far as stratagems go, there are tons of Salamander-specific stratagems, but there are a couple I like. Flamecraft, for example, rather than rolling d6 to see how many shots you're going to get with your auto-hitting flame weapons, you get the automatic maximum amount, so for 2 command points. Fires of Battle is also pretty excellent. Unmodified wound rolls of a 4 or higher give a mortal wound against your enemy, plus any other wounds that they wouldn't be able to save. It's unreal. Relics, there are a lot of really cool relics in the index. However, Drake Smiter is a must if you're going to be using a Smash Captain. Drake Smiter doubles your strength and gives you -4 AP with 3 damage. Salamander's Mantle is also a cool stack with that, adding a subtract 1 for all wounds against. Psychic Phase. And coming from a primarily Tau background, I might not be the best person to talk about psychic phase, but from what I could tell, what looks like the coolest of the psychic moves is Flaming Blast. Flaming Blast has a warp charge of 6, so it's not particularly high. But pick a point 24 inches from the librarian, and for every unit that is within the line, roll a d6, and on a 4, that's a mortal wound. Pretty neat. So as always, this is Wargaming, and we do have to come to the final question. Do salamanders have gains? And I'm going to go out and say that among all the first founding chapters, the salamanders not only have gains, but they have the most gains of those chapters, because Vulcan is known to be the largest and most gainful of all the Primarchs. So if they have the most gains out of the most gainful, it's pretty incredible. Not only that, salamanders are the Bro Legion, and bros are known, without a doubt, to be scientifically proven to have gains. So that makes the salamanders Wargaming approved. So that just about wraps up our ultra abbreviated review of the new Salamanders Index. Might have went over the 10 minutes allotted, but I did what I could. So if you did enjoy it, please give us a like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. We do put out new content every Tuesday when we feel really motivated, and every Thursday for sure. So with that, roll strong.